Guys, I have to confess that I have a guilty pleasure, many guilty pleasures when it comes to content on YouTube. I like dash cam videos and body cam videos from police, police activity videos. One of my favorite guilty pleasures, you know, just watching sovereign citizens get beat up by cops is kind of funny. I don't like cops, but man, sovereign citizens are very, very hateable, and it's funny to watch them get beat up. Anyway, another one of my guilty pleasures on YouTube is incel made-up stories. Reddit stories that are, viral and clearly made up by incels. I occasionally go out of my way to find them, and sometimes they go out of their way to find me. And so, today, I was scrolling through YouTube, and this video came in my recommended. And when I saw it, I just knew. I just knew it was going to be good. I watched maybe the first 20 to 30 seconds of it, paused it, and said, nope, not watching anymore. Saving this for on stream. I am saving this to watch on stream. Because this is fucking peak. This is peak incel, alright? Let me see if I can show you guys the thumbnail. Because YouTube's all weird about, being able to show thumbnails. Well, actually, okay, yeah, so the thumbnail is really just the title of the story, so it doesn't really matter anyway. The thumbnail is literally the first panel, or the first frame of the video. So, this video was uploaded by a channel called Requested Reads. It's got 700,000 subscribers. This video has about 100,000 views. It's not insanely viral or super highly viewed or anything like that, but, you know, it got some eyes, right? It got some eyes. And from what I heard of it at first, I absolutely think this is possibly one of the best incel fanfiction made-up stories that I've heard. And I think it'd be perfect for us to watch on stream. I'm sure I'll have plenty to commentate on. I've done segments like this in the past, and you guys seem to really enjoy it, so hopefully you guys like this one just as much. This video is called, Have You Ever Come Face to Face with Pure Evil? And the title of the Reddit story is, My wife joined a feminist social circle and started calling me a controlling asshole and asking for an open relationship while she was the one mistreating our kids. So I filed for divorce and accidentally ruined her life. That title right there should tell you everything you need to know about what we are about to endure. Now, this is a 20-minute long thing, so I'm going to speed it up just a wee bit sped up, but without any further ado, let's dive right into the incel cringe, shall we?
My wife joined a feminist social circle and started calling me a controlling a-hole and asking for an open relationship while she was the one mistreating our kids. So I filed for divorce and accidentally ruined her life. I feel
like what a great sign that our society has fallen and internet content as a concept has fallen, that people are watching stuff like this at all. You know what I mean? This is really slop. But people watch this shit. This is most of YouTube now. So I can't really, pretend otherwise. People watch this shit.
To love feminists until I met my wife. For a while we were perfect, but then she met a fresh social circle. These women weren't just opinionated. Nothing could satisfy them. Hold a door for them? You think all women are children and can't do anything for themselves? Don't hold it? You're disrespectful and entitled. Walk behind them? You're a creep. Walk ahead? You're an egotistical a-hole. But I thought...
Feminists, am I right, guys? This is, this was the first part where I was like, okay, all right. Now, here's something I want to commentate on really fast. The left has a problem, and it served Andrew Tate and the Red Pillars greatly. It's the fact that incels and Red Pillars of today online are actually really good at observing social interactions and social expectations, describing inequalities or weird double standards in society that men face. And I think a lot of the time it is kind of objectively a good point the things that they'll observe. But then they go from observing to suggesting, to arguing that things should be done, or that there is some kind of intuited motivation behind certain things, and they start to inject insane anti-woman politics into it. And I think that the left makes a big stumble when we say, no, your observations are not true. Because sometimes they are. I'd say one of the biggest ones is the left's tendency to immediately assume if a man talks about a woman doing something bad to him, a lot of people on the left assume the guy must be lying, or it must be misrepresented, or in some way, shape, or form, the woman must be the one in the right. And I'm talking about on the left, not in broader society, on the left. And I don't think that's a huge issue at the end of the day, but I think a big problem that can come from that is a tendency to reflexively deny. Let's say you hear, like, a young man tells his story about being sexually abused by an older woman. This is a common occurrence among right-wingers who will just be like, nice, you should just learn to be grateful for it. You know, you got those guys, right? Those fucking creeps. But then you get the progressive-leaning people, progressive quote-unquote, that'll poke holes in the idea that men can be victims of sexual abuse, right? Like, there are people like this, radfems you can call them, but some of them are just kind of politically not super tapped in. They're just in it for the left-wing culture war stuff. You know, your average Twitter warrior, right? Who doesn't even know who their congressman is, right? Like that kind of Twitter warrior. And so there's this reflex to deny the observations that incels make. One of the most common I've seen is, like, incels and red pillars talk a lot about how, as a guy, you're expected to provide financially for your female partner, like, overwhelmingly, like, by society, by most potential women you could date, by, like, your parents, like everybody, right? Like, you're expected to pay. And there are a lot of reasons why that's the case, you know, like, people say, like, women doing their makeup alone costs so much money and time that it's expected the guy pay just to make up for that, right? Like, because that's what their input, right? Of course, men don't have that perspective unless they've talked to a woman about it and heard their side. Many men have not, by the way. But, like, a lot of men feel that is an unfair double standard of pressure, that we're all dealing with this fucked economy, but that men are expected to carry the full economic burden, the financial burden in dating, relationships, and that in many cases as a guy, you might be expected to go on 10, 15, 20 dates with a variety of girls before you actually end up in a serious relationship where you're paying for all of them. And that, you know, can you do 20 dates you're paying for in a month? You know, like 2 months, 3 months, a year, you know? I think a lot of young men feel like they can't afford to be in the dating scene because you don't go on one date and boom, you're in a relationship. You might have to go on 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 dates that go nowhere where you're paying the bill and you're, you know, everything else until you find someone who after a few dates it ends up going somewhere. And so a lot of young men, they feel, and it doesn't matter how you think, what you think, they feel like the pressure financially and socially is higher than ever, which is why there's been such a spike in young men going into the red pill sphere and going into the incel stuff, right? They feel like these problems are getting worse for men. And not only that, but when the left hears these things brought up, instead of saying, well, okay, maybe, yes, there are some unfair economic pressures on men at times, and maybe we could socially start to normalize the idea that, like, men and women should split the bill, and be a little more understanding of each other. Maybe we should be a little bit less uptight about certain gender expectations, right? You know, like maybe we can have a conversation about. Instead, it's focused on denying that because we don't want to have the conversation about their prescriptive statements, right? We just want to say, no, this isn't true. No, like, plenty of women pay for dates and split the bill. And it's like, sure, that's true. But, like, there's a reason why so many men are flocking to content like this and believing stories like what we're about to hear. And it's because there are cases where it happens And so I don't want to go into this saying immediately, like, this is absolutely untrue. I haven't seen the whole thing. It's possible the story we're about to hear is true and does seem legit. If that's the case, I'm not going to try to poke holes in it or whatever, but if it tries to do some weird, like, and this is why feminism is evil thing, I will argue against that. Then again, this story could go off the rails. We'll have to wait and see.
Thought I could trust my wife to not follow the herd, but she did, and ended up ruining more than just her life and our marriage in the process. And it all started with a simple few arguments here and there. I'd leave my plates in the sink after a 14-hour shift, and suddenly, I was the reason for every abuser that wasn't convicted. Or if I started helping with our kids' homework, she'd pull me aside and tell me I'm inherently
14-hour shift. A 14-hour shift? I mean, those exist, don't get me wrong, but that is... like 10-hour shifts. I know people who work 10-hour shifts, and it's like, bro, you work hard. Holy shit, you are like a fucking work mule. Oh my god. And you don't even complain about it, and you work 10-hour shifts like regularly? Damn. Regularly working 14-hour shifts is crazy. A double is 16 hours, yeah. So, like, if he's hitting regular 14-hour shifts, or claiming to, I should say, that's wild. That feels like they're trying to write out a situation in which he's spending as much time working and exhausted from working as possible. So, it feels like we're building sympathy, like super hard working dad, you know? Okay.
problematic, and my mansplaining just proves it. The warm, loving woman I married seemed to be vanishing before my eyes, replaced by someone cold and antagonistic. About then, an awful gut feeling washed over me, because I was playing video games with my son and went to high-five him, but then my stomach turned, because he flinched. I immediately noticed and talked to my wife about it, and she told me I had a fragile male ego. Her reasoning was that our son wasn't actually flinching.
So this was the point. This was the point where I stopped watching and decided I'm saving it for on stream. That's when I made that decision, by the way. Wait till you hear this bit of the story.
Full gut feeling washed over me, because I was playing video games with my son and went to high-five him, but then my stomach turned, because he flinched. I immediately noticed and talked to my wife about it, and she told me I had a fragile male ego. Her reasoning was that our son wasn't actually flinching. I was just lying to myself to make myself feel stronger and more powerful than her.
True, Liam. This video is gay. So he is claiming that he was playing video games with his son, went to high five, and the kid flinched, which would indicate to him as the father that the kid is getting hit and has an ingrained reflex to flinch when like a hand approaches, which is not a natural reflex. Like if you flinch, it means you've been hit before. So he notices his kid has probably been hit, and supposedly he goes to his wife and asks her about it, talking about how he flinched when he went to high five, and the wife's response was, no, he didn't flinch. You are just trying to feel strong and powerful and masculine, so you're lying to yourself and telling yourself that he's afraid of you to make yourself feel strong. This is how anti-feminists think. But then again, I've seen Karen freakout videos where women say things not too far off from this kind of ridiculousness, right? Like if you've watched like police body cam videos of domestic disputes, there are cases where you get like a deranged girlfriend or wife who's like crying to the cops, like begging to get like for the husband to be arrested. And the husband's like, yeah, so she's really drunk right now, if you can't already, like, smell it. But I recorded everything on my phone, thankfully. So here, just go ahead and watch this. And then, like, you see the cop watching the video through the body cam, and it's her, like, ripping the house apart and throwing bottles and fucking pans and plates at the guy. And he's just like, please stop, please leave, please. I'll leave if you'll stop. Just stop destroying shit and I'll leave. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah. So Objectively, the police body cam footage that gets released publicly doesn't lie. There are cases where horrible abusive women will go to the police to try and like accuse a man that they're abusing of being an abuser and get him arrested. That happens. Enough that I've seen dozens of videos of it online. Is it a statistically significant amount? Probably not. But the fact that a lot of people have seen those videos means that they're going to feel like that's a real significant problem, that if you're unwilling to acknowledge it or talk about it or admit it exists, so at least, right, a lot of men will discredit you. They will not listen to anything you have to say unless you're willing to give them that exists, that's a problem, and when it happens, it's not good.
Because I was insecure. So yeah, pretty confusing and not at all reassuring. So from then on, I made sure to pay extra close attention to our daughter and son. Every day I watched as they slowly became less and less like their energetic selves and more timid. My son even started wetting the bed at night. Well, I cared endlessly more about our kids' well-being than the state of my marriage. Until one day, I came home early to a parked car in our driveway. My heart broke, but instead of confronting her, I drove off to a diner and came back a few hours later. I proceeded to ask her who she was bringing home when I was at work all day. My friends? Am I not allowed to have a life outside of this miserable house? My heart dropped. It suddenly became very clear that
bro didn't pull the Andy Dufresne. You're supposed to go in there with a with a 48 or 38 revolver and go to a prison in, I think it was Tennessee, or like, yeah, I think it was Tennessee the prison was in, or Alabama, in Shawshank Redemption, and then you gotta get like, well, unfortunately in Shawshank Redemption he gets raped a couple times, but there is a happy ending. He gets raped in prison a couple times, but in the end there is a happy ending. So, you know, he just, I guess he decided he didn't want to go for that route.
That she didn't give an F about our family.
Oh, it's, of course it's Maine. It's Stephen King. I forgot. Well, how did I forgot. I should have remembered. Oh, what author wrote Shawshank Redemption? Stephen King. Oh, it takes place in Maine or another dimension. Those are the only options when it comes to Stephen King. It either takes place in Maine or another planet.
Family, and she was not the woman I thought she was. And as our children turned from more timid to actively fearful, I decided to take away one of her fundamental human rights. That right was her right to privacy. But when I checked her phone, most of the messages were deleted, and what remained was alarming. It was a conversation with one of her new friends discussing how Kayla should approach asking me for an open relationship. The friend advised her to ease into it and make him think it's his idea too.
So this is part of the story where I'm once again calling bullshit. So a common incel talking point, okay, so open relationships are a thing that is gaining, a decent amount of popularity over, like, or maybe it's always been popular. I mean, swingers have always been a thing, like swingers in particular, like open relationships of some kind have been a thing for so long. It just always had different names and stuff, right? Like swingers. Everyone knows about swingers. There's always been swingers parties. They're usually old rich people in Florida that do the swingers parties, like notoriously, right? Like this shit has been around for a long time, the concept of open relationships. However, the idea of a committed couple agreeing to an open sexual dynamic where they communicate, but they also sleep with other people is not, it's becoming a progressively more common, if not just as common, just more talked about and more open thing these days. And the right really doesn't like it. And young men really don't like it. Personally, I don't think I could ever be in an open relationship. I'm pretty certain I couldn't. It's just not for me. Many would argue it's because of insecurity. The idea that the idea of being in a relationship with your partner and being cool with them sleeping with other people means that you're secure in yourself or something like that. And if you're not, then that means you're insecure, or you want to feel some ownership over your partner. That is a fairly common idea I'll see thrown around within left-leaning circles. But no, for the most part, I think most people just don't like the idea of their relationship not being exclusive, because a relationship is supposed to be intimate, right? And so I think a lot of young men, they think, because they're being told and they see more of it simultaneously, that open relationships are becoming more common. And from their perspective, and it doesn't help that there are data points to pull from with this, where like correct me if I'm wrong, when polled, something like 78% of women said if they could have a secret second husband for one thing and one thing only, it would be sex. Like 78% of them said, like women said, that they would have a second husband or boyfriend secretly if they could, just for sex. Like that's all they would want. It's just like to spice up their sex life with an extra person. And men answer statistically, they would want an extra second wife for like helping out with bills or chores. Bills or chores. Those are the two things. Sex actually ranked really low. Maybe men are lying about what their priorities are, but that kind of sounds real as fuck to me, though. I'm not going to lie. Like, I think most men would be like, oh, yeah, I can only choose one thing for my secret second wife to do for me. All the chores that are assigned to me. How about that? You know, like that just seems real. And so with that being data that's like available, like people are somewhat aware of that statistic that like compared to men, most women kinda, whether or not they admit it to their partner, would absolutely like to have sex with another man that's not them, just to spice things up and get a little like interesting action, whatever, like just to make things different, right? And I think a lot of men feel really actually insecure about that fact. And so there's this dynamic with a lot of young men that believe women are inherently hoes, basically, and that women will try to use you and manipulate you and try to cheat on you, and that they're not like really interested in monogamy. They only pretend to be, and they just want things from you. And while there are plenty of relationships where that actually is the case, and that's the fact that it happens is what lends credibility to their claim this is a significant trend and problem that has to be countered with their movement, the fact is some people are assholes, you know? Like, some dudes are abusive assholes who drink all day and beat their wives, and some women are, you know, conniving gold diggers who fuck over dudes they're in relationships with. It's, you know, if you're an asshole, you use what tools you have at your disposal. Assholes that are men, they typically have strength and size on their side, and so they tend to do asshole things using that as their tool. Women, on the other hand, not so much, but they do have their looks more often than not. And the fact that men will typically do anything for a crumb of coochie. And so if you're an asshole and you're a woman, you use the tools you have. The fact that men will do anything for a crumb of coochie. And if you're pretty, the fact that men might do anything just for you to hang out with them. Like, so there are assholes, men and women. Rad femmes tend to use their anecdotal negative experiences with men to justify their rad femme shit. And the same goes for incels and their, in many cases, real negative interactions with women. This does not seem like one of those, however. This feels designed to make young men feel scared. Like, yes, my wife heard about open relationships, and now she's trying with her friends. I found out that she's trying to figure out how best to convince me and manipulate me into agreeing to one so she can get away with cheating. It's like, this is meant to hit at fears and insecurities that young men have.
Obviously, she was cheating, but I didn't even care about that anymore. I just needed to know who was laying hands on our kids. So in my head, this is what I'm thinking. I needed to formulate a plan that allowed me to get full custody of the kids. But since there was no prenup, I had to make sure I was left with enough that would still allow me to be a good father. So when Kayla casually brought up the idea of open relationships over breakfast, like it was just a random thought that had occurred to her, I was prepared. I had my phone recording in my pocket. She stirred her oatmeal nonchalantly. So I was reading about these couples who have open relationships. What do you think about that concept? I didn't yell. I didn't scream. Instead, I looked her straight in the eyes and asked with a clenched jaw, "Who is he?" Her cocky demeanor vanished instantly, like a mask sliding off. "What do you mean?"
And then everyone clapped.
But I wasn't falling for her innocence anymore. And eventually, Kayla confessed to 2 one-night stands while I was working. She explained that when they came over, she forced our kids to sleep on the hardwood floor while she made love with them in the other room, loud enough for them to hear. Hence their timid...
She brought a guy over to fuck, and for some reason made the kids sleep on the hardwood floor instead of their own beds. But they could still hear the fucking from the living room? My stepdad's algorithm has put him in this content rabbit hole. It's concerning. I'm in this content rabbit hole because I have a guilty pleasure of listening to these stories and being like, bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. This one could have happened. This one could have happened. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. Like, I have a guilty pleasure for it. But yeah, people who just have this like in their algorithm and it just plays and they're just hearing these stories and believing them more than disbelieving them. Hearing a million stories like this, and there are a million of them out there that are on YouTube, really can color your perception of the world way more than any data can. Stories like this make you feel emotions. Data is cold and just kind of there and boring.
Midness and increased anxiety. They were both married men with children of their own, fathers who, like me, probably thought they had loving, committed relationships with her. Then came the bombshell. She was planning to sleep with a colleague.
The men who she was cheating on her husband with, who were also married men in relationships, thought they had a real relationship with her, their mistress. Okay.
At work, and intended to pursue it because it's good for her, and I don't have any right to control her. The way she said it, with defiance rather than remorse, made it clear this wasn't a confession. It was a declaration of independence from our marriage.
So yeah, a very common talking point among the red pill community, you'll hear some rewording of this phrase I'm about to say very often is, women want all the privilege and no accountability. Or it'll be like women running from accountability and a meme of like someone running from something, right? And the idea is that like, there are a lot of talking points about how like this culture of feminism, they'll call it, that we're in, centers heavily around rewarding women socially for being queens and being independent and powerful and getting what they want. And there is some like yas queen, girl boss culture online and on the left, to be fair. But the idea is that culture tells women that men are just receptacles through which to get what you want, and that you should always prioritize what you want because you are a queen, and that men are your stepping stones to get what you want. And so like there are some people that think that way. I could say there are some thoughts like that because, you know, obviously like a thought that you think, but also thoughts, you know. There are some thoughts like that, don't get me wrong. But you know, there's plenty of people that are like any given thing. Overall, I don't think there is a trend of women like trying to manipulate their boyfriends and husbands with this idea that they're a bigoted control freak if they don't let their girlfriend/wife sleep with whoever they want and do whatever they want in the relationship. I don't think this is a even close to common thing.
Marriage vows. The absurdity escalated when she mentioned setting me up with one of her friends who was really keen on me. She thinks you're hot, Kayla said, as though offering me some kind of consolation prize. I've seen this friend, perpetually angry, loud, and physically unpleasant. I wouldn't touch her with a 10-foot pole.
I love this. She tried to hook me up with one of her friends, but she hooked me up with her ugly friend. She tried to get me to hook up with her ugly friend like it would make it okay that she's gonna go fuck Chads.
My head was spinning, but I maintained enough composure to ask for her phone. With surprising compliance, she showed me her unlock pattern. While she used the bathroom, I locked myself in my office. She pounded on the door while I ran recovery software, uncovering painful evidence of explicit conversations, plans for meetups, and disparaging comments about me and our marriage. I also installed a monitoring app before returning her phone and telling her to leave. Her response wasn't remorse, it was indignation. She yelled about me being controlling, holding her back, like men always held women back throughout history. She claimed I never truly loved her, that I only wanted to possess her, that she had every right to do this, and expected me to just accept it as the new normal for our marriage. Through her tirade, I silently packed her things and stood at the front.
What I need you to understand is we're all having a fun time, laughing at how ridiculous this made-up story is. Don't get me wrong, we are having fun. But keep in mind that to the majority of people watching this video, that's not the reaction they're having. They think it's fully real, and they're getting mad on behalf of this made-up guy and his made-up story, and they're getting mad at his made-up, not real wife. And so, or ex-wife or whatever. And so, to the majority of people that watch this video, this is going to color their perception of the world and the dynamics of men and women in our society from here on out. Oh my god, now they're playing Minecraft B-Hop B-roll. Yeah, you better believe we're getting some Minecraft parkour B-roll. This is pure slop, bro. We're slopping it up.
Door until she ran out of steam and left for her parents' house. As she walked down the stairs, I said, "You're single now. Do whatever you want. I'm not controlling you anymore. My lawyer will be in touch in January." Before she could reply, I slammed and locked the door, my hands shaking uncontrollably as the finality of what had just happened washed over me. Through the monitoring app, I watched Kayla discuss everything with her friends in a group chat. They praised her for being strong and demanding what she deserved. They assured her my divorce threat was empty. Want to bet that men always make threats they don't follow through on, and that I'd come crawling back once I realized what I was losing. What terrified me was hearing them suggest she could accuse me of domestic abuse if needed to secure her future. One friend brazenly bragged about how she screwed her ex-husband and took everything with false abuse claims. She detailed exactly how to make the
This is literally like half, if not more, than half of men my age's biggest fear in regards to like going out in public and having relationships and stuff. Like, most women naturally are afraid of being raped or sexually assaulted. Most men are afraid, it would seem, based on being a dude, talking to dudes, being around this culture, seeing red pill content, and being on the internet. It seems like a lot of dudes, if not most, their biggest fear is being falsely accused of rape or sexual assault. And this is the biggest fear of middle and high school. Well, let's be clear. The men who are hardcore falling into the red pill sphere that we're concerned about are like the voting age dudes, of which there are plenty of like Gen Z adult men not having sex, falling into incel stuff. We've had this whole discourse. There are stats that back it up that men at a really high rate are really lonely, not dating, not having sex, and are really upset about it. And it's causing results in our society. Like, men hardcore went for Trump this election because they saw this as their chance to defeat feminism and stop like Kamala Harris and all the girl bosses from getting her into office, you know? Like, the desire to stop feminism among these men who feel victimized by it is strong. It's not just teenagers, it's people who affect the election results.
Allegations seem credible. What to say, how to act, even suggesting Kayla could inflict minor injuries on herself as proof. I immediately ordered security cameras for my house. I knew I needed to record everything from this point forward. Then came something I never expected. Kayla messaged her affair partner to meet at a hotel. The message included the hotel name and room number. I quickly found the AP's wife online, connected with her on Facebook, and told her everything, including their current location. She thanked me and hung up abruptly. Hours later, she sent me a video from the hotel confrontation. "You fucking asshole. You do this to me again? To the kids again? I told you we were over if you ever did this again." She filmed my wife getting dressed on the bed. I vomited when I first saw that footage, the visual confirmation of my wife's betrayal hitting harder than any verbal confession. The AP's wife slapped Kayla and berated her for helping destroy yet another family. I messaged Kayla saying I'd seen the video and never wanted her near me again. My entire body felt cold, as though I'd been plunged into ice water. The woman in that video was unrecognizable to me, not just physically.
Okay, so there's a trend. These videos always go one of two ways, all right? They always go one of two ways. These made-up, like, stories where you got, like, the Reddit made-up incel story and the Minecraft parkour, footage in the foreground. All these videos always go one of these two ways. A woman does something horrific to the male protagonist of the story that we're reading, and either A, everyone sees what's happening, turns against the woman doubles, triples, quadruples down, and cathartically destroys herself as everyone around her, like, disassociates from her and, like, realizes what her deal is. These are, like, incel catharsis stories. And then you have the incel pity party stories. These are the ones where a woman does something horrible to the guy, usually lying about them. There's so millions of made-up stories online of, like, sisters, girlfriends, ex-girlfriends, classmates, friends that are all girls falsely accusing the male protagonist of these stories of SA. So many of these stories exist. And the other version of it is always guy gets accused of SA falsely. somehow everybody in their life, including friends and family, like their parents, believe this random like girl making up a story about them. They are forced to disassociate from everyone in their life and like move far away physically. They always like move to the other side of the country, make a whole new life for themselves, and then either A, somehow evidence comes out that proves the guy was innocent in the end, and then everyone comes back, or they admit to, the girl admits they made it up in the end, and then everyone comes back to the guy like trying to apologize and make amends, and the guy is like, no, you guys had your chance, you didn't listen to me, and you thought I was a horrible person, you nearly ruined my life. And it has this like cathartic moment of they come begging and crawling and apologizing back after realizing the allegations are false, and he gets to do the whole like, no, you didn't believe me, you know, and you get that cathartic moment. Or they contact the person after finding out that it's not true, and they double down and try to say like, oh, we were always right though, family is family, and then they do the whole like, well, fuck you, I'm staying no contact. It always goes one of those two ways. Everybody around either teams up against the evil woman, or teams up against the protagonist with the evil woman. And it depends on whether it's meant to be a cathartic, like, story of victory against feminism and evil women, or if it's meant to be a pity party about how evil women are just so awful and they're ruining so many men's lives, and here's another story of a man's life who is ruined by a woman. You know, it depends on whether they want to feel like they're beating feminism or feminism's beating them, and it's always different depending on the day.
Physically in that compromising situation, but fundamentally, as a person, the way Kayla behaved afterward was bizarre. Like she viewed our interactions as some competition she was winning. She texted friends that I was falling apart, and would be begging her to come home within a week. She seemed completely disconnected from reality, not grasping that we were actually divorcing. There was no remorse, no acknowledgement of the pain she'd caused, just strategic planning for how to come out ahead in the divorce. I joined her family's WhatsApp group, and informed them we were divorcing due to her infidelity, thanking them for welcoming me into their family before leaving the group. I received several calls and messages from her relatives but didn't respond. I couldn't bear to relive the details over and over, each retelling reopening the wound. After telling my parents everything, my father messaged Kayla that she wouldn't be welcome for Christmas. I'm staying with my parents now, surrounded by childhood mementos that provide small comfort amid the chaos. My boss has given me time off until mid-January, recognizing that I'm in no state to function professionally. Through monitoring, I've witnessed Kayla's increasingly frantic discussions with her friends. I don't think she comprehends that she's lost her family, her marriage is over, and her new friends don't actually care about her. They offer toxic advice that only serves to drive her further from reconciliation. She sent countless messages, and even showed up at my parents' demanding to celebrate Christmas with us. My father threatened to call police if she didn't leave, his face flushed with anger at her audacity. I've been Googling divorce lawyers between crying spells. Initially, I think I was in shock, functioning on autopilot while making necessary arrangements, but the pain hit full force once I reached my parents' house. Nothing makes sense anymore. How could someone change so drastically? Was our entire marriage a lie? Was there something I could have done differently? I've only responded twice to her messages. 1. It doesn't matter what you say. I don't know who you are. You're not my wife. My wife would never destroy my heart and soul while smiling. We will get divorced. I don't care what you say or what you want. You have no right to demand anything from me ever again. We are over. 2. Like I said, you're not my wife. I don't know you. My wife would never condemn our children to growing up in a broken home. You, whoever you are, seem proud of what you've done. My wife was loving, caring, considerate, my best friend.
One thing I've also noticed about a lot of these stories is if they're not supposed to be told from like the perspective of a young guy or a teenager who is like falsely accused of SA or something and had to like run away from home to escape like all the people believing the false claims. It's always a dad, right? It's always a dad with a horrible cheating wife, right? And the story always uses the kids as like the barometer of evil, basically. Like the kids are always getting perfect amounts of attention and love from the dad, who's the main character of these stories, and the mom is always horrible and evil and hates them and doesn't even want them, and the kids clearly don't ever even like the mom, and the mom still wants custody of the kids every time, and the dad's trying to get custody, and the kids are like miserable, and they always use like the mom just wants to fuck dudes and abuse her kids, and that's like the best way to get these incels on Reddit like to really froth at the mouth, you know, just to like make them feel so morally righteous in their hatred of women. Like, yeah, not only are women just evil towards men, but without a good father around, they'll just abuse their kids. It's like, they want to feel so morally righteous with their worldview. Not just like they are getting what they deserve, but that being an incel is righteous. That's what they think.
And you are a self-obsessed, self-absorbed abomination. The messages stopped after that. Perhaps reality was finally setting in. The pain is unbearable sometimes. I find myself staring at family photos, tracing the outline of Kayla's face, wondering if that person ever truly existed, or if she was always capable of this betrayal. I wish none of this had happened. I wish we could go back to before, but I can't do that to myself. This is the worst Christmas ever. In a moment of weakness, I told the kids that mommy doesn't want to be a family anymore, that she wants to be with other men, and we're getting divorced. They're devastated. Briar cried herself to sleep in my arms, while Milo went silent, his small face frozen in confusion. Thank goodness my parents are here to support us all while I'm an absolute mess, barely able to function through the grief. I'm trying to pull myself together for my children, but I'll never go back to Kayla. The level of disrespect and callousness in her behavior is unforgivable. I'm completely lost. Why does she expect to demand anything from me at this point? Is she mentally ill? Has she always been this person beneath the...
Oh man, I can't anymore, dude. This shit is so fucking cringe. I want to read some of the comments. What do the comments on this look like? Oh my gosh, guys, he's an angel, married to a devil. He's trapped with his feelings. And this whole time he didn't even care she was cheating. He just cared about his kids' feelings and well-being. There it is. That's the response you're supposed to get. Like, he loves his kids so much, he just cares about keeping them safe, but she just wants to hurt them and use them against him. I swear, this guy is one of the strongest people I know. You know this guy, apparently? FYI, he didn't have to apologize for anything. He was the good guy in this story, fighting against the woman who was once the love of his life, and now someone trying to destroy his life and their family. That's the top comment. Can we talk about how amazing these friends are? Oh my lord, they are the best. Can we just say OP is the strongest person ever? After he leaves his wife for her mess she caused, this man is still out here trying to protect her like she's a human being. OP's moral compass just grew, and it's charting off the map. Congrats, OP. The way I immediately searched if chlamydia spelling wrong was curable, since this man can't be living with something like that. He deserves a healthy and good life, and so do his children. Apparently she gave him chlamydia. Wow, oh my gosh, the ending definitely surprised me. Yes! Love the support from family and the W Friend Squad. This woman was so blind. A lot of the comments seem to be from women, by the way. She lost a great man because she fell into an echo chamber of bitter, single, feminist friends, and then ended up getting the snot beaten out of her, but by the same friends because she outed their secrets. So apparently, in this story, the feminist friend group beats the shit out of the dude's cheating wife. They betray her, and they beat the shit out of her. I'm sure the story forgets to include any police being called and charges being pressed, by the way. I'm sure that, like, the writer doesn't remember, oh yeah, when a group of people fucking curb stomp someone into the dirt, cops tend to get called, and hospital visits tend to be made where questions are asked and cops get involved because you were beaten to a fucking pulp. You could just tell the story was designed. And look at all these comments from people too stupid or naive. Like, this is Gen Z's boomer moment, okay? Gen Z is getting old enough now that we're having boomer moments where we're hearing stories like this and not thinking for a second, this might be made up. We're seeing AI videos and not thinking for a minute, this might be fake. The poor guy suffered so much for nothing. His wife pissed me off really bad. You're not the asshole. That is horrible, and she deserves everything she got and more. Bro is as patient and kind as Thorfinn. What the hell, bro has no enemies. Not addicted to these types of vids. I just like a good story. At this point, this is not even pure evil. This is just fucking dark and unfathomably disturbing. Okay, that was incredibly dark. Probably the darkest story here with the darkest ending ever. Kayla was awful, but I don't think she was awful enough to deserve this. What a bunch of amazing friends she had. She literally ruined her life for nothing. Whoa, that ending is so Does she, like, die in the end or something like that? Does it... Wait, no, actually, hold on. I don't think she deserved to die, but she Oh my god. She dies at the end. The story literally ends with her fucking dying. No way, bro. Hold on.
This week. The doctors warn the road to recovery will be long and difficult, with no guarantees. Thankfully, I hadn't canceled her life insurance yet, so treatment is covered. I've offered to help with finances as long as Kayla isn't told I'm involved. Not out of kindness necessarily, but because her recovery is vital for our children to eventually have some relationship with their mother, a healthier, sober version of her. I was terrified the men who attacked Kayla would come after me and the kids, thinking I had provided the incriminating chat logs. Jack's friend Brandon, who benefited from those logs in his divorce case, decided to fix this.
What is this
Brandon
Breaking
is an
Bad
intimidating
shit?
mountain of a man who grew up on a farm lifting hay bales and wrestling cattle. Despite his frightening appearance, tall enough to duck through doorways, crew cut, facial scars from a childhood accident, he's actually patient and kind. He visited the attacker's apartment, grabbed them by their necks, and gave them 2 options. Go to the police and confess to the assault,
Grabbed them
or face
by
it
their
and
necks.
suffer painful permanent injuries. They couldn't get to the police station fast enough. I found a new apartment and will be moving soon. Jack helped arrange it. It's smaller than our family home, but it has enough space for the kids and is in a good school district. I've been slowly decorating their rooms, trying to create a space that feels safe and welcoming.
As much as it is a meme, mathematically, even a really big, strong guy cannot grab 2 grown men by the neck with one hand each, restrain them, and threaten them both while holding them both, like, by the neck against their will. Like, listen here, boys. Like, that is not real. You guys know that, like, you can't, no matter how strong you are, lift someone by their neck, right? Like, someone told me a story where they said they did that once, and I was just like, I wanted to, like, call them out on it. Like, I know that that's not mathematically, scientifically, biologically possible, but I didn't because I didn't want to put them on the spot. But, like, that can't, like, that, the Darth Vader, like, lifting someone by their neck, you know? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you have to be a literal child. Maybe if it's, like, The Rock and a 10-year-old. The Rock might be able to do that to a 10-year-old, but an adult man and, like, the world's strongest... it is a very hard lift. It's really hard to lift and maintain. So, yeah, no, it's just not even... Darth Vader uses the Force. Yeah, but I'm using it as, like, a comparison, like the lifting with the... Yeah. It's just not a thing that, like, any human being can do, to lift a grown man off the ground by the neck, even one. And so to hold 2 grown men by the neck, doesn't matter how farmer tough you are, okay? It's just not a thing that we humans have the ability to do. Our muscles just can't get that strong, sadly. Like, think about it for a second. To get your head, your neck out from the control of a guy grabbing it with one hand, you just have to move your body using your whole body's muscles. Like, one guy's arm holding another guy is not strong enough to keep your whole body. I shouldn't have to explain this anyway.
Despite everything, I'm profoundly depressed. What keeps me going is my friends, family, and the need to stay strong for my kids. My heart breaks for Kayla. Despite everything, I don't regret marrying her. I still love who she was, but I know we can never reconcile. She isn't the person she used to be, and there's too much pain between us. We had a good life before this disaster.
Does she
I wouldn't
die?
have my children without her, and I wouldn't trade them for anything. The pain will linger, but I hope I'm strong enough to endure it. Some days I doubt myself, but other days I see glimmers of a possible future, different than what I'd planned, but perhaps still worthwhile. Strangely, learning about Kayla's addiction has helped my kids cope. It's easier to explain that mommy is sick, and it's going to take a long time for her to get well, than to explain betrayal and abandonment. They've written her letters that I'm keeping safe until she's stable enough to read them. Their resilience amazes me. Children can adapt to so much if given the proper support and honest, age-appropriate explanations. I'm sad and exhausted, but Brandon is here with his kids now. We're watching Madagascar 3 tonight. I'm trying to make as many good memories as possible amid the darkness. Our children seem to be doing better. They laugh more freely now, and the nightmares have become less frequent. I think we'll be okay. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually. Thank you, everyone, for your help and support. The kindness of strangers has been a lifeline during the darkest moments. Final update. Kayla passed away. She overdosed.
The ultimate incel catharsis. The evil woman dies at the end. Holy shit. You could never devise a more perfect story for the, like, not just incels, but the dudes who are prime incel like, red pilling material commenting down below. You could never have formulated a more perfect story to tell, like, a narrative to make incels. The most evil woman you could imagine, and in the end, she gets karma and dies. Oh my god, dude. Literal cinema, bro.
Dosed while in rehab. Nobody knows how she got the drugs. One doctor speculated she might have swallowed a hidden bag that burst during detox, releasing a fatal dose into her system all at once. I held our children as they sobbed, their small bodies shaking with grief.
I can't even fucking... I'm so fucking done, dude. I'm so fucking done. Oh my god. Is there a single comment calling this fake? I wonder how many of these are true and how many are fiction. Okay, if you sort by newest, the most recent comment is that. Feminism, not even once. The old... Oh my god. So, daughter here from this. This was 3 years ago. Me and the son are fine. We've been chilling at the OP's parents' house. We do not flinch anymore. No shot. Is there an account claiming to be the daughter from this story? No way. No way. The account's pretty empty, so there's nothing to go from there. No way.
My wife joined.
No fucking way, bro. No fucking way. Bro's adding to the goddamn fanfiction. Oh, what a perfect comment to finish it off on. Here's a real incel. Feminism is a vile cult nowadays. It changed in the 70s from wanting equal rights to wanting to destroy and harm the family unit, men and children, by brainwashing women to demonize men and have no accountability or common sense. That's really a good way of summarizing the way that these incels think, and not just incels, but the popular mindset that just everyday, normal, non-politically invested men are starting to adopt. And it's quite worrying because, like, these stories are meant to... Well, okay. Let's say you have a statistic, right? You have a statistic that 1 in 4 women will experience sexual assault, harassment, or rape in their lifetime. I think that's literally true, right? Like, maybe a little inflated, but I think it's really close to that. That's a really scary and high percentage of women, right? I think every woman I've ever met has had a creepy interaction with a guy that might border on sexual harassment, at least. And so, with that in mind, women have the realistic fear of men being a danger to them. Feminism argues that systemically, women exist under fear and oppression from men, and that's why a lot of feminism does come off as kind of man-hatey. But I don't like man-hate, to be clear. I'm not a man-hater. Believe it or not, I'm not a man-hater. But I'd say it has more of a point than the incel stuff. Statistically, factually, mathematically, we know women are at a higher risk of rape and sexual assault than men are, or than men are at risk of being falsely accused. Here's the thing, though. Let's say 1 in 100 men might be falsely accused of rape, or sexual assault, or sexual harassment. That's a very high percentage than what I think is the real one, but let's say it's 1 in 100 to women's 1 in 4 chance of being raped or sexually assaulted. Even most men knowing that's the breakdown of the stats, and that the numbers are that brazenly against their fear, it's similar to telling someone that driving is less safe than flying if they have a fear of heights. If you have a fear of heights, you don't care that driving is more safe. You'd rather drive across the country than fly across the country because you're not leaving the ground and you feel safer. The fact is, it doesn't matter what the data, the statistics, and the science tells you. Humans are very logically flawed beings who like to go with what feels right. What feels most comfortable, what feels, importantly, safe. There's a big difference between feeling comfortable and feeling safe. And a lot of men are entering the red pill movement and basically getting into the whole MGTOW type thing because it makes them feel safe. The idea of being a volcel, which is technically part of the incel movement, but it's not incel. When we say incel, it's short for involuntarily celibate. Most incels today are not incels in the traditional sense. They're not dudes who just can't get laid. A lot of them get plenty of play. And that's kind of part of the problem, you know, like, a lot of them get plenty of play. The fact is they've joined an ideology that sees women and women's liberation as evil. And that's the movement they're a part of. And many of them ascribe to the ideas of nofap or even volceldom, where they outright refuse to sleep with women or even try to, all the while focusing on self-improvement, thinking if they become a giga-chad while not sleeping with women, that increases their sexual market value. And so it's really fucking bizarre, but like the incel movement is, it really is something. If you guys want to see more of me like doing videos like this where, you know, go into these stories written by incels that seem probably made up and kind of like analyze what their point is and why they're made, then yeah, consider letting me know down below in the comments. It really does help to let me know what you guys like and what you guys want more of. Leave a like as well, and leave a sub if you want to see more from me and all that. And of course, if you got this far into the video, why don't you comment sexual market value to let me know you got this far? Lord Rose asked, what the fuck is sexual market value? It's the incels term for what value you have in, well, I feel like it's pretty straightforward. It's your value in the sexual marketplace. Incels think that the dating scene is basically broken down into 90% of women all fighting over and vying for 10% of guys to lock down as a long-term partner, all the while trying to have fun with the top 30%. And, you know, they always talk about how, like, women are trying to then settle after having their fun. They're trying to settle with the highest quality guy they can in terms of, like, the Chad thing. So, like, things that increase your sexual market value, fitness, having money, you know, looking attractive just genetically, inherently. You know, a lot of incel communities are oddly woke, and that they'll call out odd statistics, right? So a big one is that a lot of white women are oddly racist against Indian men. Well, a lot of women of many races, but particularly white women, will not date Indian men. Just straight up, they won't do it. Like, as a category, like, nope, Indian men, I refuse to date them. Oh, you're Indian? Sorry. Get out of my DMs. Like, that's the kind of reaction a lot of Indian men get just for being Indian. And these are not, like, racist, white supremacist women. These are women whose just private dating standard is no Indian men. There's also a similar thing with Asian men because of, I guess, the perception that they're not as sexually virile, we'll say. Racist stereotype. And so there is a lot of the incel community centered around race and the idea that racist stereotypes against men of color are part of the problem. There are a lot of black incels who are not rocking a BBC, who are like, I go and I hook up with a girl, she's expecting me to whip out a fucking garden hose. Meanwhile, you know, he brings out his, like, 4.5-inch Punisher, and it's like, well, you know, they're always disappointed. And so you get these, like, black, Indian, and Asian dudes, notably, who either A, feel like expectations among white women for black men's penises leave them at a massive sexual disadvantage, that white women have a surprisingly high rate of a secret standard of no Indian men, no dating Indian men, period, right? So a lot of Indian men are part of the incel movement. I think it's literally called, like, Incels or something like that. Incels. Like, there's a whole movement of Indian incels. The whole thing is white women won't date Indian guys because they're racist. And that is kind of true. There is a point there. Like, yeah, a lot of white women are kind of racist. And, like, won't date black guys, they won't date Indian guys, they won't date Asian guys, because they have some weird idea around that. How many women have you seen that won't date bi guys? Because they think guys being bi is gross. Yeah, so, like, it's weird because, like, from a woke, progressive perspective, some parts of the incel movement are kind of making some good points or dealing with real problems. Like, yeah, there are a lot of racist white women out there, like a lot of them, who won't date Asian guys because they think that they have small dicks. And it's like, yeah, you're not owed a relationship like any other situation, but, like, the idea that certain races of guys are having a notably harder time in the dating scene because of racist stereotypes that are commonly believed by particularly white women, that's kind of a thing, right? Like, that's kind of a thing the left should kind of be talking about in a way, but, like, it crosses over into the boundary of telling women that they shouldn't reject guys that they don't have feelings for, which kind of comes off as, like, rapey or like anti-feminist, right? Because it's like, should a racist woman have her standard of not wanting to date Asian or Indian men challenged? Because then again, should a woman ever have her sexual preferences challenged, even if they are racist and are outright, like, used as a way to put down men of color because they feel like their race makes them inferior and less desirable? Like, that's a weird gray area, isn't it? Of, like, racism is bad, but so is having a problem with women not liking a guy. But is not liking a guy because he's Asian or Indian, right? I love it when Zan understands the frustrations of other races when it comes to dating like this. Oh, trust me, I know. I listen to plenty of people tell their stories and their experiences, and it sticks with me, right? And if I don't believe that their story or experience is necessarily indicative of a wider experience, I can still compartmentalize it as something that people are experiencing or think is a big thing, and how that might be impacting their analysis of the world. Anyway. This has gone on for way too long. So with all that said, if you guys enjoyed, you watched this far, I appreciate it. Thank you for watching, as always. Comment, subscribe, like, donate, all that good stuff. But as always, if you enjoyed this video, I hope to see you again in the next one. Thank you for watching.